Hey guys, and welcome to Drive Steady. In this video, we're going to talk about sports cars that we think will depreciate the most in the next 3 to 5 years. And hopefully by watching this video, maybe this will introduce some buying options for you within that time period. Before jumping in, we wanted to say that there is no particular order to our list. We're listing 5 cars that we believe will depreciate the worst. Getting right into the first car, which is the 991.1 Porsche 911 GT3 RS. Now this car debuted in 2016 and I remember when it came out, oh my goodness, people were drooling all over it. It was so over the top for Porsche. It had the big air vents on the fenders with the humongous wing out back. It just looked extremely gnarly and aggressive for a production car. But most importantly, it was the reintroduction of the 4.0 liter engine that Porsche put in the previous 997.2 Porsche GT3 RS 4.0. Now the new GT3 RS came with 500 horsepower and 339 pounds-feet of torque. So you're asking us, why do we think this will depreciate like a rock? It sounds like a major hit. Well, let's tell you why. First, it's because Porsche made too many of them. A lot of these Porsche collectors that gobbled these up when they first came out thought that they would be extremely limited, much like the 997 GT3 RS 4.0. But what ended up happening is Porsche made almost 5,000 of these GT3 RSs. If I was a collector who bought one of these, I would be pretty upset because 5,000 cars isn't that exclusive. Another reason is that Porsche only made this in a PDK. Now they got a lot of heat for this because both the 991.1 GT3 and GT3 RS were only available in a PDK. Everyone went crazy. All the Porsche fans went nuts. They couldn't get a GT car with a manual. Now, fast forward to about a year ago, in 2018, Porsche reintroduced the manual in the regular 991.2 GT3 and they upgraded it to the 4.0 liter engine. So now you've got the GT3 RS's engine in the regular GT3 and you've got a manual transmission. Because of all these reasons, the 991.1 GT3 RS becomes less desirable. You can see a screenshot here from cars.com that there are several GT3 RSs available for under 175,000 with very low miles. Now consider this, the 911 GT3 RS was a $200,000 car when it first came out. In addition, many of the buyers were paying close to $50,000 to $200,000 markups for these cars, bring their total up to about $300,000 to $400,000. Now, $400,000 versus $175,000. You do the math, that's a 50% depreciation. I know everybody's going to say, well, we should only be looking at the sticker price, but I can pretty much guarantee you that most, if not all of these cars were sold with an ADM or additional markup. I mean, you never see Porsche GT cars depreciate that much. Typically, they come out, they see an initial depreciation between maybe 10 and 20%, then they shoot right back up in value because the new model doesn't have a special feature like the old one had, much like the air-cooled 911s or the ones we've been stating frequently thus far, the 997 GT3 RS 4.0, which was very exclusive. But when you look at the 991.1 GT3 RS, it doesn't have any of that, so that's why it's on our list. Moving to the next car, which is the BMW M5. This car debuted in 2008 as M Division's first four-wheel drive car. It came with the 4.4 liter V8 twin turbo, pumping out about 600 horsepower and 553 pounds-feet of torque. Now the issue with the M5 is that immediately after it debuted, BMW released a competition package basically within the model year or within the next model year. And historically, the 5 Series never really held its value very well. The regular M5 has already taken a huge dip. When I say regular, the non-competition package M5, the early models. Even when you look at leasing the M5, The bank says that the car will lose 50% of its value in 3 years. And that's BMW Financial Services Bank. This is not some other bank like Chase or Wells Fargo. That's pretty crazy when your own manufacturer bank is depreciating your car 50% in 3 years. Now that's telling you something. So the M5's base price is over 100,000, and when you spec it out with the competition package, I'm sure it's going to be over 110, probably 120,000. So in 5 years, your M5 will be worth about 50,000, or even less if you put a bunch of miles on it, or if you don't take care of it. So that's why it's on our list. Moving to the next car, and I'm sure we're gonna get a bunch of heat for this. It's the Lamborghini Huracan. It's been out since 2015, and don't get us wrong, it looks absolutely amazing. It comes with the lovely Lamborghini V10, and it's mated to a dual clutch 7-speed transmission. It's got over 600 horsepower and 400 pounds-feet of torque. But the reason why it's on our list is it's not special. Now hear us out. It doesn't have a manual. It shares its engine with the Audi R8. It doesn't even have cool looking Lamborghini doors. Sure, like we mentioned, it's blazing fast and it looks amazing. But trust me, once Lamborghini comes out with a new version, it's going to blow the doors off of the Huracan and it won't look as good in comparison. Much like the predecessor, the Gallardo, the Huracan will go down in value very quickly. At least the Gallardo came in a manual, and that somewhat resurrected some of its depreciation or value in the used car market. The next car is the Mercedes SL63. The SL received an exterior refresh in 2007, but the engine basically remained the same, pumping out 577 horsepower from a 5.5 liter V8. When you think of German cars, they typically depreciate between 40 and 45% over a 3-year period. With the SL, it's magnified, multiplied, especially with the AMG models. The typical depreciation curve is about 60% after 3 years. Now, the SL63 has a $155,000 base price. Nobody is going to walk into a Mercedes dealer and buy a base SL63. Consider that these cars are probably touching $200,000 plus. It's insane to think that somebody would lose over $100,000 after 3 years of ownership. And we think the reason for that is because the SL just isn't special anymore. It's not cool. The SL lost its specialness, for the lack of a better term, after the early 90s to 2000s R129 model, which was a classic design and still looks good today. In a nutshell, most AMG model Mercedes cars are going to depreciate very quickly, and it's no different for the SL, and we're pretty much banking that it's going to depreciate significantly within 5 years of ownership. And the final car is the Maserati Gran Turismo, which has been out for some time now, but Maserati keeps making small changes to it and keeps changing the name and adding new trims and slight upgrades here and there. It just keeps customers satisfied, thinking that, hey, this is a new car and we've made changes to it. But it's basically the same car since 2007. The cool thing about the Gran Turismo is that it still comes with the Ferrari-derived 4.7 liter flat plane crank V8. It pumps out 454 horsepower, 386 pounds-feet of torque. Now, when you look at today's horsepower figures, that's a pretty low number, or below average when you consider a sports car. And it shows because the performance of this car is not that great. It's 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. And when you look at, for example, the new BMW 3 Series, it gets to 60 faster than this car does. Like we mentioned previously, the Gran Turismo is starting to show its age in design, and it's very familiar at this point, which are the contributing factors to its huge depreciation curve. The GT's estimated depreciation after 3 years is about 60%, and we're seeing that in the used car market. We're not surprised by this. Like we said, it's been out since 2007 and most of the models look the same. So buying a brand new car doesn't really make sense when you consider that this car is $135,000 MSRP. And much like the SL, you're not going to walk into a dealer and say, give me a $135,000 Gran Turismo. You're not going to find one. If you calculate out your depreciation, your car is going to be worth maybe $50,000 after 3 to 5 years. And that's a humongous loss, especially when you're factoring in you're going to pay insurance and gas and all these other maintenance fees. And because of those reasons, this car is on our list. Now, to put a bow on all of this, what is the typical trend that we can apply to most, if not all, of these cars? They're not really special. They don't have one thing that someone can say, hey, that's cool, I want that. Maybe you can argue the Maserati's flat plane crank engine because it comes from Ferrari, but it still made it to an outdated automatic transmission. And the same could be said for the Porsche. Hey, it looks great and it's got the 4.0 liter engine, but it doesn't come in a manual. So there's something missing in each one of these cars that would make it special. Hey, this seems like it's the direction that the car industry is going in nowadays, and as a result, we keep seeing these sports cars have big depreciation curves. So with all of that said, we're now at the end of our video. Thanks for watching. Until next time, drive steady.